On Monday, the 29th of September, Honorable Alva Baptiste, the Minister for External Affairs, represented Saint Lucia at the 80th session of the United Nations General Assembly's UNGA General Debate. In his speech, the minister promoted multilateralism in the UN's decision-making and action, as well as non-violent approaches to conflict throughout the world. From the outset of his speech, the minister platformed the most pressing issues that Saint Lucia faces in relation to the international community.
Saint Lucia, as a small island developing state, has maintained its engagement in the various processes of critical importance to its domestic agenda at the United Nations, such as climate change and sustainable development, financing for development, international ocean governance, the proliferation of small arms and light weapons, revitalization of the General Assembly and decolonization. These all have a real impact on our national plans and programs.
Baptiste warned that the circumstances surrounding the nation's development stifle and threaten its progress towards sustainable development goals. The global financial system particularly came under scrutiny, likely pointing to the financial practice of de-risking, which places red tape around Saint Lucia's financial participation rather than appropriately managing such risks as money laundering.
In the context of our development challenges, the global economy is facing multiple shocks that are threatening to further retard and reverse progress on Saint Lucia's sustainable development. The impacts of these compounding shocks is aggravated by an unfair global financial system that is short-term oriented and crisis-prone, which further exacerbates inequalities.
In keeping with the Caribbean's tendency to approach its foreign policy in a decolonial and anti-imperialistic manner, significant consideration was given by Minister Baptiste to Israel's genocidal offensive on Palestine, with the minister calling for peace to prevail in the Middle East.
The only way for Israel to have secure borders is for the Palestinian people to live in their own internationally recognized homeland, in accordance with the universal right to self-determination. Peace in the Middle East can only come from this, not from bombs and wars, and terrorism and genocide and illegal settlements. Madam President, clearly, lasting peace cannot be secured on the basis of extremism. It must be pursued on the premise of mutual respect for the lives of both Israelis and Palestinians.
Minister Baptiste made a bold call for reform within the United Nations, outlining veto power as an obstruction to the international community's timely response to crisis situations.
The UN 80 initiative is essential to revitalize the UN's effectiveness amid crisis, enhancing multilateralism to restore trust and address issues like climate change and inequality. Madam President, despite challenges like limited enforcement, vetoes and geopolitical interests, the UN remains a valuable conflict resolution tool. We should leverage the UN to advance economic and social priorities and a stronger international response to global issues. Hence, a new model for the United Nations should prioritize reforming its decision-making processes to enhance efficiency, accountability, and inclusivity, addressing current limitations like veto power and bureaucratic inertia. This model would shift towards a more equitable representation, empowering developing countries and marginalized groups, ensuring their voices influence global solutions.
The criticism of veto power was likely prompted by the recent vetoing of a UN resolution meant to bring about an immediate, permanent, and unconditional ceasefire in the Gaza Strip. The unmitigated unilateral power of the United States alone to outweigh the 14 UN Security Council member states which voted in favor of the resolution resonated strongly even through still images of that UN Security Council meeting on Thursday the 18th of September. The minister's speech included calls for reparations, a lifting of the sanctions against Cuba, the inclusion of Taiwan in the international community, attention to the humanitarian crisis in Haiti, de-escalation of tensions between Venezuela and Guyana, and an end to the war between Russia and Ukraine, making for a contribution to the 80th UNGA General Debate, which will hopefully move the needle in bringing peace, development, and human rights to all persons throughout the world. For Choice News Now, I am Cianna Dalsan.